throat. Let me clear my throat.
Let's talk about 104 million.
Liberia is a small country in West Africa, as you know, and like a lot of small countries, they print their money abroad and then they ship it into the country. It's just cheaper to do it that way. So at some point last year, the Central Bank of Liberia ordered up 16 billion Liberian dollars to be printed and shipped to Liberia. 16 billion Liberian dollars is about 104 million US dollars. So they put that money in canvas bags. They put it in 20-foot tall sealed containers. It entered Liberia. It cleared customs sometime late last year, earlier this year, and then it vanished. $104 million. Poof.
Wow.
Now, when we're talking about U.S.-China trade, 104 million may not sound like a lot of money.
Oh, but in Liberia, it's
that's
huge.
5% of GDP. Yeah. This is one bank heist big enough to affect the inflation rate in that country.
Holy smokes, 29.
29. Japan is a country that has...
We're forgetting that we need each other. We're forgetting that we need to look out for each other. We're forgetting that except the least of us is taken care of, that the best of us cannot survive. We're forgetting that it's one world and it's a very small world. I've traveled across all the continents and I can tell you, we need each other. It's such a small world that if we don't learn to love and respect ourselves and forget those things that we think are important but are actually unimportant, and if we do not have the courage to speak up when we should, then we set every one of us up for trouble. Take a child from every local environment in this world, no matter their tribe, the color of their skin, their language, or where they come from. Put them all in one room, and you would find them as a team, playing together, supporting each other, except you teach them otherwise. They will work together to solve every problem that you give to them. That's what we need to be. We need to go back to being children of the world again. We need to be a people who believe in love, in faith, in kindness, in caring for our neighbors in a way that together we can find the solution of the world. We need to understand that not a single one of us is an island to itself, that every single one of us holds a piece of what is required to build the right world where we can all survive. Whether you're a business person or you're a career person or you're someone who is working in whatever field, we have one home and we share it together. We either protect it, we fight for it. In fighting for the world together, we fight for ourselves. In building a better world, we build a better home for every single one of us. In building a better future, we build a future for our children. It's a small world. It's too small for divisions. It's too small to be divided. But more than what some people think is what you think. How you can dare to think and determine what is right, and how you have the courage and the audacity to stand up and fight for what is right. How you can look your neighbor in the eye no matter where they come from and think of what is in their interest as well as in your interest. How you can remember that no matter how smart you are, you're not smart enough to survive by yourself. No matter how rich you are, your wealth alone cannot keep you alive and keep you safe. That we all need one another, looking out for one another and understanding.
And understanding.
IMF, World Bank, all other institutions, they make African countries jump through hoops. Loans will never be able to pay. The US, when they borrow money, they're getting it in 1.5, 1.9 interest rate. Africans, when they get the same amount of money, they're paying 9, 10%. The people who don't need a break, they get a break. The ones who need a break, they don't get a break. The sheer survival of the World Bank, IMF, is based on the fact that African countries and many other developing countries do not succeed. Their success is based on our failure. That has to change. And guess who can make that change? We, the children of Africa, we, the Africans, are the ones who have to say, we know your game now. Enough is enough. We're not playing it anymore. And this is where the diaspora come in. There are more Ghanaian doctors in New York City than in the entire country of Ghana. There are more Nigerian doctors in LA than in the entire country of Nigeria. So let's be serious here. What Africa needs is capacity, capacity, capacity. And that capacity is in the diaspora. So it behooves us to bring the diaspora together. Let them understand what is really going on in our Africa. Diaspora are not going home. Diaspora are angry about Africa because they are not understanding the root cause of why Africa is where it is today. They think getting rid of a president will take care of the problem. Far from it. That president is just going to be replaced by another one who is going to equally suffer from the same difficult environment to work in. So let's look at an Africa that must be free to take care of herself, an Africa that's free from exploitation from outsiders. The multinationals who are stealing from Africa every day in broad daylight. I use an example of the DRC. If you ever fly very low over the DRC, you'll see tarmacs in the jungle. You'll see 747s flying into DRC, picking up minerals and flying right out. The same multinationals are responsible for arming young people and giving them MK-16s. Because why? Their satellites in the skies are telling them where that village is. There are lots of diamonds. So what do? Arm young people, drag them up, and send them to go chop off a few heads. The rest of the village runs away, so they come behind and do their illegal mining. We black people must understand what is really going on. Because what we are shown instead is, oh, look at those Africans killing each other. There are some serious games that have.
If you want to, in a sense, eliminate corruption in a society, and we all want to eliminate corruption in a society, the most effective way to do it is to make sure you don't punish people at the bottom, you punish people at the top. I'll tell you one story. In the 1960s, when Singapore was a very poor country then, our per capita income was 500. A government minister was invited by a businessman to go on holiday. Just on holiday. No bride. He and his family went on holiday with a businessman. He came back. He was arrested, charged, went to jail. After that, no more corruption. Because it's a very powerful signal that is sent when you go after someone at the top. So Singapore's experience, and it's actually quite remarkable how you have almost zero corruption in Singapore, is because we decided that the example must come from the top.
This country is not about education. It's about what the Liberian people need. Our needs and wants. The leader that can provide all the best praise. Look at your homes. Look at your villages. You are living in huts. If book and English can develop country, Liberia is supposed to be the best country in the world.
Rastafari. So reggaeton that. Pleasant greetings to you, Mama Rita. I wish you a happy and a glorious birthday. With one blow.
You could have your phone thing all the phone stealing money. But even I've seen the money get like Brentford, I put it because Ali and I see them carrying it in Europe. Some point in the country, all government are in eligible interest. That's the money. But we tell how money the school will get, we'll go to our people there and go pay for the school best. I can't pay how in one country the best. So I was about to tell the money I carry to Ghana, correct? But one country get it on me for. I was taking from you, Gary. No. Yeah, I'll leave it. Yes. The day God take me, I will carry her with me. No. Our grandchildren, I will kind of see the ones there, but what kind of looking for? They got book power there. So these are the things we'll be doing. I just want to say thank you to for doing what you.
And as my political career advanced, I have always been there with strong support for me. I say to you, my Muslim brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. I want to say that I've heard you. My ears are wide open, and I've heard that you said, rest assured that you will get an answer from me. You will get one very soon, inshallah. My fellow partisans,
October 2019.
And as my political
October 2019. 26, 2019. The amendment. In the Constitution, they say that the elders have agreed and wrestled that Honorable Mamadi Sise make a full financial report. Make a full financial report to the elders, get copy to the board, let the board look at it, they certify, they send it to them. That's why they just want peace. They trust you. Whatever you're saying today in order to resolve issue, make a full financial report. Number two, the Musa Constitution to be amended to replace the delegate. The delegate issue should be replaced with all voters. Let the delegate be relaxed.
Okay. Just to clear, because I think it's on live, so we want to make it sure the golf team BNPs then. I want to make sure the people of Atlanta to know that there are $2,215 was used as one of the costs. Okay, Minnesota. Okay, and all chapters. All right, and then we have
on my right, The chairman, I didn't speak. I didn't, no, listen, because most people think what I did here today is being. No, I was given a message. I think later you can confirm it, right? I was given a message by the chairman of the board. I'm older than him, but he's the leader of this community. When he asks me to do something, I do it. So I gave that message, and that message came from the entire community. So it's not personal, because in the community we could go say, friends, I don't hate this thing. No, it's not personal. If the community decides to say today, you know what, they 18,000, the others say, no, you're leaving. You will never hear me talking about it again. So, but to end, we are grateful. We are grateful, we got you, the elders. And that's why in our Manigo culture they say, wherever you go, wherever there are elders, they are your parents. The same father and mother you leave behind, the community in which you live in, these people are your mothers and they are your fathers. So we are grateful. You have done a very great job. May Allah abundantly reward you. Amen. May Allah continue to give you long life so that you continue to face between us. Amen. What has happened in Formosa, may it not happen again. Amen. What has happened may not happen again. Amen. May Allah give us the strength, the courage, the determination to follow our constitution. Amen. This community will not grow if we don't follow laws. Yeah. We got to understand that. If we want the community to grow, we got to follow laws. Even you and your wife, excuse me, elders, even you and your wife in your homes, in your home, there is no written law between you, but there are unwritten law. You got to follow your own, she follow her own. If you don't do that, there is no peace. Yeah. So we write some.
All right. Good evening to all of you, the viewers and would-be viewers here after the show, inshallah. That has become a tradition that we become pretty much accustomed to. A tradition whereby we don't drive the most viewers on our live shows, especially when it's ongoing. But it's been our experience that immediately when our shows are done, after we should have ended our show, that's when our viewers, tend to spiral, to go up and up and up. Understandably, due to our various time and busy schedules, time difference, and we have to admit the fact that it is also due to the proliferation of many different talk shows now. So people, and then we can also ignore the fact that we have not been regular of late. And so that is taken away from us. Certainly it's not giving us, it's taken away from us. And so every time people go searching for other talk shows and they find one, especially one that they like, so you have a problem getting them back, especially when they're not sure when you're going to come back and or even whether you will come back to stay. I'm trying to do the best I can to come back regular, thanks to a very good few friends out there who just can't let LDF go. Even if I try to not come on show, they make their best effort to reach out to me to ask that we come by and talk. And so we'll continue to do so for you. And you know yourselves, I don't need to name you. If you're not here now, hopefully you'll come later. You'll see this video, so it's you I'm referencing. So if you will, please give me just a little more time, and then we'll come back and have today's discussion. So if you already on here, you probably have seen that topics that I intend to talk about. That actually, for the day, I just want to talk about one main topic, one main one, which has to do with Liberia after 2023. Liberia post 2023 elections. What kind of Liberia do you imagine? What kind of Liberia, do you envision? How would you like? I mean, in other words, do you like Liberia now? Do you want it to continue as it is, or you imagine a different Liberia after our general and presidential elections next year, 2023?
That's what I want to talk about briefly when we come back. And of course, I got a few announcements. And if you've been here lately since I came back to this show thing, I've made it a duty, a very profound duty, to talk about our high school situation, our kids, our youth, our young people in this country who are seriously challenged by high schools and all of what's unfolding at various high schools. So that's what I've been beginning with every time lately, and I'll do the same today, inshallah. So just give me few more seconds, if not a minute, and then we'll get started here, inshallah. those are the old good days of our community. Femusa's son, somebody tested me, why you playing Sekou Kenne's song? Well, I answered Sekou Kenne's song. It was all of us son. We are all mentioned, and the vast majority of us are mentioned in that song, my brother. So no, I'm not playing Sekou Kenne's song, I'm playing Femusa's song. Femusa music, if you will, when Femusa what it was. It's a good song. You must you would agree with me. It's a very good song. Anyway, again, good evening to all of you. It's a pleasure to be back on here. And why they may calling me talented? Please don't do this to me. It's a pleasure to be back on here. And I must also acknowledge that it's a big struggle. Hey man, why they man doing this? You keep calling me at this time. So I'm being seriously challenged to find time again out of my busy schedule to come and bring this show to you. Trust me, I'm doing my best. I missed last week due to family issues, community issues, and that will continue to happen from time to time. As you know, family comes first. And of course, in this country, our jobs also come first. Our job, family, job, and then the community, you name it. So from time to time, we'll miss the show if we have to attend to those issues, because at the end of the day, those are the things that make us who we are, all right? Not just coming here and talk. After all, there are too many talk shows and talkative around there. So missing one once a while should not be the end of the world. So before I get into my conversation for today, I like to get a few housekeeping issues out. Usually I keep my announcements to the end of the show, but I want to change format. I want to make the announcements now, and then hopefully I'll have time to make them too before the end of the show. So firstly, I do want to acknowledge our friend and brother Milwaukee Pape, brother Abu Fufana, for the return of his show. I understand he had a show sometime last week. We hope that he, like me, we hope that he too have found time to come back on the airwave, because trust me, we need every show in our community. We do. Everyone plays their part, and everyone contributes one way or the other. I understand he had a show last week. I apologize that I didn't have the time to attend the show, to be on there. But I know I heard it was pretty heated. There was some heated, breathtaking conversations highlighted. So I want to thank Brother Abu Fofana for that. We do want to welcome him back on the air. So hopefully both here now can find time, a better footing to get back in the business of this talk show thing. Of course, we can't forget my uncle Leo Sese, who's been there, who hasn't left the stage. He's very consistent, like the Northern Star, Julius Caesar would say. So we are grateful to him for all of his contributions. The show should continue to have. So that's a great thing. Thank you, Uncle Leo Sese, for helping the community and your country at large. The other announcement I have is that Brother Musa Keita, that many of you know, Musa Keita, some call him controversial, not so much for me. He's a very good friend. Actually, he's a brother, not a friend to me. So he contacted me last week, and I think his idea that we introduce a new show on LDF's platform. I'm sure the show will be called The Way Forward. The Way Forward, the show will be called. It's a show that we intend to bring many stakeholders forward, on board rather, as panelists to discuss different issues, both issues affecting our community, our communities, both here in the diaspora and at home, Liberia, as well as our nations, our countries in Africa, and even here in America. America has become part of our countries too, whether you agree or not. The fact that we live here, many of us are citizens here, not to mention, a lot of us may not make it back to Africa to live, and even if we did, our children will still be here. So that makes this country part of our countries too. So The Way Forward is a new show we look forward to. I'm eager after all of the discussion with Musa Keita. So this show hopefully will begin next week. next weekend. I'm not sure if it's going to be on Sunday, Saturday. We'll keep you posted. And as I speak, Musa is busy gathering our first panelists. I had suggested, I contacted Martin Colley, and apparently he wasn't too happy with that as a beginner rather. So I think we are trying to compile a list of panelists. And all of you here now and all of you that will come after, please expect our phone calls. We may very well just be reaching out to you to come and be a panelist on this new program called The Way Forward. Don't you agree? I mean, wouldn't you agree with me that with all that's unfolding, with all that's happening, continue to happen, don't we need a topic, a show, a program called The Way Forward? I think we do. We are stuck. We are not making any progress. At the community level, at the national level, everywhere you look, we are stuck. We are not making much headway. So this program will start, and we'll call many people, the elders, our friends in corporate America, our friends in politics, our friends in business, from all walks of life. We intend to bring panelists to come and highlight and discuss various issues affecting our communities and our nations. So the difference with The Way Forward is that it will not just be highlighting and discussing. We call it the program was named The Way Forward. We expect the panelists not only to highlight the issues, but to also suggest ways forward. How can we break the stigma? How can we move forward? How can we make things happen? How can your success be replicated, by other people? Those are the kind of things we intend to bring about with this new program to be launched effective next week. So those being said, last but not the least, I also want to say kudos to our very powerful, most able, and very good common sense president in presence of Solomani Diabate for his able leadership to the people of Minnesota, the Madingo Association of Minnesota, MAI for short. I'm sending kudos to him, not just for his leadership as the president for MAI, but for the weekly Tai base that he's established for us. The place we were last night, I see Brother Vaboli Kamara here, I think can bear me witness. That place is becoming more and more interesting by the week. It's been really fun. So much so that we find people from the other side joining us now, even though they're not part of MAI, just to be clear about that, but they want to be part of the base created by MAI's leadership, by the Madingo Association of Minnesota, MAI for short leadership, under the able leadership of Brother Soleimani Diabate and Ahmed Kone, the vice president. We want to thank you both for giving us something to look forward to every week in Minnesota, every weekend. Just in case you just hear this for the first time, if you live in Minnesota, you are visiting Minnesota, or you know anybody in Minnesota who's looking for a fun weekend, Soleimani Diabate's residence is a place to be every Saturday from 4 to 12 midnight every Saturday. So you are more than welcome to be a part. I'm told the base is called the Welcome Base. That's what it's called. I learned last night. But I'm having a ball. I'm having a great time. And then we got to thank former President Mohamed Enza Dollar, who's been bringing too many politicians to the base. Last week, he brought the mayor of Brooklyn Center to visit the base, a mayor who's running for re-election November 8th. And then last night, he also brought a potential mayor, another aspirant for Brooklyn Park city mayor position. So Dollar continued to bring those folks, and I'm told this coming weekend, other people intend to bring their candidates to our base so that they can engage us. That's a good thing. So we need to do more of that and do less fighting and more debating on positive things. So those were the housekeeping issues. Hopefully I'll have time to revisit them when I'm done with the show. So before I get into my main topic here, which is the LIBERIA You Envision post-2023 presidential and general elections, I want to talk about the high school issue. I mean, if you've been coming on this show lately, I've made it a habit, a duty to talk about high school dilemma, our high school challenges in this country, something that is killing many of us slowly. Many of us, especially immigrants' parents. We can't talk about it because that's how we are wired. That's how we're raised. That's who we are. You know, we try to keep things internally. We try to deal with it the best way we can, as secretive as possible. Unfortunately, you know, that's not helping. And I'm not suggesting that talking about it will help either. But in fact, the part that I have come to understand, I've said doing my previous shows of recent that in times past, I always frowned on people having a huge celebration party for their kids graduating from high school. I always had trouble. I had trouble comprehending that. I couldn't quite stomach. I couldn't understand why people throw out such a big party for their son or daughter graduating from high schools. I did not like it, honestly, to be frank with you. I had a serious issue with that. In part because I thought that by doing such thing had a propensity of maybe, you know, discouraging the kids from taking college serious. I thought narrowly, out of my twisted mind, out of my stupid idea at the time, that by you throwing up a big party, you know, celebration for your son or daughter graduating from high school, I thought you were sending a signal to the child that he or she has already arrived, that they don't need to worry about education any further, that they don't need college, that high school was all they needed. That's the twisted notion I had about it. I was so anti post high school celebration, especially in certain ways. I was. Then I learned some people even bought vehicles for their children upon graduating from high school. They bought them cars, stuff like that. Then I, you know, like I'm like, what the hell are they thinking? Why would they do that? To do so, I thought then was again to send signal to the child that forget college. With your high school diploma, you're good. You are educated now. We are proud of you as you are. So I thought it was always a good idea to wait till the child graduates from college. And then you can throw out the biggest party. You can buy the child an airplane if you can, if you could, or maybe a car for sure. But you know what? Of recent, I have had a 90-degree U-turn. I've given up that thought completely. You see, this is the thing that makes me different from many people that you know. I'm not ashamed to say that my previous ideas were wrong. I'm not ashamed, not afraid to say that my previous notion about something was inaccurate, especially when I learned, learn the reality, when I learned otherwise. So of late, I have said, boy, was I so wrong to have frowned on parents who celebrated their kids' high school graduation. Was I so wrong? I was terribly wrong. I was completely wrong. To the point that now I think high school graduations in this country, in the Western world, in America to be specific, I by far the most worthy graduation that's worthy of celebration of any kind than even college graduation. That's what I say now. That's my new position. And I'll tell you why in a little bit if you just stay with me. Let me repeat that. Now that I know what I know, as a parent of high schoolers, as a parent of teenagers who are in high school, and after having interacted with many other parents who also have high school children, I have come to realize that when your children go to high school in this country and graduate and come back to you in tight, in a minute I would explain what in tight mean. That is something that is worth celebrating more than anything, I can tell you. Maybe it's the only other thing that I will now celebrate bigger than that, probably their breath. Because obviously, if God had not given them to you, you wouldn't be talking about high school or college. So apart from their breath, I don't see any other thing in my child or children's life now that's worth celebrating more than their high school graduation. Believe me, not college. Yes, you may wonder why, because college obviously is a bigger deal. Yes, I get it, but I'll tell you why. To the extent that I'm even inclined to celebrate my kids' high school graduation than their marriages, professional achievement, and whatnot. All those things are worth celebration. They are worth, taking time up to celebrate. They are worth acknowledgement. But again, I insist high school graduation. High school attendance and successful graduation are by far the most important thing in our children's life. Here are my reasons. My friends, many of you I see on here yet, I don't know when other people will come, but many of you that I see on here yet would agree with me that our high school, our children in high school here are seriously challenged. They are seriously challenged. They have so many things to deal with. And honestly, in order to do justice to this brief discussion, their challenges start not even in high school. It starts in middle schools. Most of them, for most of them, it starts in middle school, right? So you born your kids, we raise them with our own values, our religion, and all that we know. Everything that our parents put into us, we try to put the same into our kids. And as long as they are in, kindergarten, elementary, you don't have that much of a problem with it. They tend to follow quite well for the most part. And then all of a sudden, boom, they are off to middle school and then on to high school. In middle school and high school, that's where a lot of time problems begin. Especially in high school, I want to highlight that. The kids go to high school, and there's something I don't understand. These United States of America, with all their wealth, I don't understand why they continue to build these large high schools. Because I want to believe some of the problems that I'm about to highlight, nothing new, problems that you already know. I'm inclined to believe that some of these issues are due to the size of the schools they have. You go to some of these high schools and see the number of kids, several hundred kids going to one high school. I'm not sure what the exact classroom sizes look like, but with that number of kids together, it's like market grounds for instance. Every time I visited my kids' high school, you see, especially when you get there doing break time, when they're switching classes from one to another unit hallway, you couldn't even possibly find your way through. You have to give them time. It's like a judgment day, the number of kids you see out. It's like market ground, it's just unbelievable. So I think right off the bike, I'm inclined to believe that some of the issues last in those, in the size of the population that high schools hold. But that's the issue remains to be debated. Who am I? What do I know, right? So the high schools, so you send your kids to middle school and then boom, they're off to high school. Now in high school, don't get me wrong, high school, we send them there to go learn book, but also other things, learn life as a whole. And life as a whole entails a lot of things. Oftentimes, many kids will try out sports. Kudos to a lot of our kids all across the U.S. who are in sports. Basketball, football, gyming, like different sports. That's where they try those things, in high school. They explore their God-given talent, and they get it. Some of them become successful. We pray that all of them become successful. But along with sports comes, those, like anything else, there are other things that are associated with that. Once they start to play sports, especially good sports, they become famous. They become well-liked by their friends, and then people that were there before them. Some of them, not all of them, there are other things that come with being famous, right? Like even in real world, some of those things, they are pretty obvious. They are common knowledge, but they explore their athletic, God-given talents. They do that, which is fine. We want all of them to do that. But also in high school, that's where some of them try to experiment drugs. That's where some of them try to experiment drugs. That's also in high school. You wouldn't think elementary kids, of course not. It's often in high school that, kids, they go because they mingle with too many other kids, too many different kids from too many different walks of life, from too many backgrounds. High school becomes the grounds for exploring many different things, good and bad. Both good and bad things gets to be experimented in, at high school level. At high school, that's when these kids are really trying to discover themselves. That's when they're trying to, see how smart, in fact, that's when most of them become self-conscious. Have you noticed when your son or daughter was in elementary school, Oftentimes, they didn't care what you put on them for clothes to go to school. They didn't really care much. But once they cross over to middle school and especially high school, then they become so self-conscious of what they wear. They want to look the best. They want to wear the most expensive sneakers. Most of them, not every one of them, they want to wear good clothes, good sneakers because they are looking at their friends now. They become self-conscious. Self-awareness takes, a different level, different direction in high school. And so they start to struggle with that. They start to find their identity. Now, many of us immigrant parents, we don't have the time that many of the people we met in this country, to be point blank, to be quite honest, I like to say many of us immigrants, first generation immigrant parents, don't have the time that our Caucasian white Americans have to devote to their children education. How many of us take time to go to our children football games, basketball games? How many of us attend all of our children school conferences? How many of us are involved in our children after school events? Many of us, the truth is, many of us are not involved. So we leave the children. We assume once we get them in school, that is it. They are taken care of. They are in school. They're supposed to learn there, and they are all good. Well, there's a problem with that. Because if you are not involved, believe it or not, somebody else will be involved in their life. And that somebody or those somebodies don't have the same value as you. They bring different family values, different societal values, and oftentimes they try to indoctrinate the kids into that. And so you have some trying sports. Within sports, sometimes drugs associated with that, unfortunately. Then you have some trying not drugs straight out, and then you have some even trying sex, right? Those are the things that happen in high school: sport, drugs, and sex. All these things oftentimes gets to be experimented in high school. Unfortunately, unfortunately, all these things get tried. None of us, like Mugabe would say, that the one thing we don't ever teach our kids oftentimes is sex education. Not many of us can give that. Oh, yeah, but still, they grow up to know it better than us, don't they? They grow up to know it better than us, even though we didn't teach them that one. So where you think they learn it? Who you think taught them sex? Well, you wonder, huh? But anyway, so we send our children to our good, well-read kids, properly read, by us, by our culture, by our religion. We send them off to high schools, and then they go mingle with majority of these other kids from different backgrounds. Now, I'm not saying those other kids not from good backgrounds, but certainly their backgrounds are not like ours. They come from different backgrounds, right? So they go there and they all mingle. And at this point in time, they build new relationships amongst themselves. They make new friends, and so they become more interested in these friends sometimes than even you. So now they are eager to talk to their friends more than they are waiting to talk to you as parents. Their secrets are not kept with their friends more than it's kept with you. And on and on and on they go. So these are challenges that our kids are faced with. I don't see it. I'm not saying this to frown on them, but I'm saying these are challenges that our kids walk into when we see them off to high school, to middle school, and high school. They go to a school where they don't only have to learn academic, but they are also eager to try sports, which is a good thing. But then they are also eager to try drugs, some of them, because they see the friends doing it. If you saw friends playing sport and you found that attractive to the point that you want to try, you want to try that too, why wouldn't you be, eager to try drugs if you saw some of them doing drugs? Why wouldn't the same child or children be eager to try sex when they see their friends talk about it and experimenting that? Those are the things that happen in high school when our children go to high school. And it's very unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. So along with that, notice that, I don't know how many of you know, there are some very good for nothing grown-up men in this country whose job, whose survival, whose revenue generation depends on people, innocent children. These grown-up, foolish, useless, good-for-nothing old men would take their vehicles, will take their time and fence around high school, middle school vicinities. They are often around high school and middle school surroundings, trying to fish people, kids out of school. They go there hunting for kids. Believe it or not, the same way hunters go hunting for animals in the jungle, the same way fishing, people go fishing in the river. These good-for-nothing grown-up men and women sometimes will fence around various high school vicinities, high school areas, high school localities. They will often fence around those areas in search of lonely kids, in search of any kid for that matter that they can get, right? They try to recruit these kids into their drug dealings. So speaking of drug dealing, when we talk about drugs being experimented in high schools, sometimes it's not only just limited to kids sniffing drugs to see what it tastes like, to see because a friend did it or a friend does it, and now he or she also want to try it to see what's in it that makes the friend to do it. But worse than trying it, sometimes they become dealers. And these good-for-nothing grown-up that I'm referencing here, they are the one often responsible for that. They go there to recruit people, kids, into those kind of bad business, into those kind of bad habit, into those kind of life-damaging, activities. Why do these good-for-nothing grown-up, people, men and women go on high school grounds to recruit kids? Because they too, these grown-up, have come to study the laws and have come to understand that the law in many states across these United States of America as a whole, the laws are very flexible, very linear when dealing with juveniles, with kids, right? So the laws are different. For example, I'll tell you, if an adult commit certain crimes, let's just leave it general, certain crime committed by an adult, obviously it will be charged as a crime. They will be arrested. If caught, they will be arrested, charged, and sent to court for prosecution, right? Now, a lot of those same crimes, if committed by juvenile, by minors, by children, people under age, the law does not deal with it quite the same way. They are considered juvenile for a reason. There are juvenile laws in this country. You have juvenile justice, you have juvenile judges, you have juvenile detention centers, and on and on and on. So that's the reason why these good-for-nothing old men and women will go on various school campuses, outside the school campus, hanging around, sometimes with fancy cars. Kids, who here, tell me when you were growing up, you didn't like cars? Most of us like cars. Most of us growing up, we love vehicles. We love material things. We like good things. These kids, these good-for-nothing grown-up men will go and sit in these school parking lots, outside school building, and find kids by themselves, observe them, sometimes study them, and then recruit them, and make them, excite them with out of the car they drive or the cash they have, and you trying to train your child, sometimes not to be so unreasonably concerned about money. You want a child to focus on school. You have this sort of grown-up who probably doesn't have a child of his own. I mean, sometimes they do, but they keep their children out of it. They go after other people's children, and then they flash up so much money to them, as a way of inducing them into their illegal, business. So they get these kids, to do what they want them to do, and sadly, it doesn't augur well. It goes seriously bad. Obviously, what do you expect? But all of these things, in my opinion, are challenges that our kids are facing in high school. So that's why I said from the beginning of this high school thing that if your child goes to high school and takes his or her school serious, and graduate from there, come to you in whole and tight, and whole, that means that they manage to stay away from these bad influences, and they manage to stay away from these good-for-nothing old men outside trying to recruit them, and they got the education that you've sent them to get, and they come back to you with that. My friends, we all need to celebrate that. Let me say congratulations to all of our young high school graduates of recent past, time past, in recent and graduates to come. We ought to acknowledge them. We ought to commend them. We ought to celebrate them for, going to high school and coming back to us with our high school diploma, with their sound mind and their full body, undisturbed mind and all that. Now, why do I think this is even more crucial than college? Because my friends, let's face it, college is different. First of all, college is not a right, it's a privilege. Let's get that clear. No one is required, we're not obligated to go to college. Now, some will say you're not obligated to go to high school either. Well, fine, you can say so. But we all know for anyone to do anything in these, United States or the life in this 21st century, at the very least, you want a person to have a basic high school education, right? Apart from high school, whether or not the person decides to go to college, that's a whole different thing. And if they do, kudos to them. And even if they attend college setting is very different from high school setting. You may have college that have a greater population than high schools, but my friends, they don't go the same time. They have different class schedule, different hours, different programming. They don't mingle as much as they do in high school. They don't. College is a whole different ball game. It's a whole different ball game. First of all, it's a choice we make to go there. And by the time you go to college, you are a lot more mature, and you go there with sound mind and knowing what you want. Oftentimes, not all the time, because sometimes even our kids coming from high school, they graduate without a fully developed mind, and so they go off to college, and sometimes they do well. Oftentimes they do well. But my point is, you go to college as a man. Now you are oftentimes, you go to college oftentimes, as an adult now, making in charge of your own decision most of the time, and it's different. It's just a different environment. I'm saying this because I've been to college here, right? I'm a college graduate from 2 different colleges, universities, so I know it's very different from high school. And all of you here who've been, even if you haven't been to college or high school, you can acknowledge that. You can acknowledge that the challenges our kids face in high school are quite enormous. It's huge. It's not they are very different from the kind of challenges that they face in college. They don't. I mean, it's not even the same. It's like comparing daylight with midnight. Very different. At least that's the conclusion I've come to when it comes to education. Now, it's safe to say the challenge of experimenting drugs, either becoming drug user or drug dealer or trying sex, as all as part of your high school journey, I safe to say those are not enough. You also have the issue of these high school shootings, right? What about that? Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever thought about that? When you look at the record of school shooting, by the way, if you have, all of us have internet. Let me not say if you have internet. Obviously, if you don't have internet, you will not be here. You will not watch this show, right? But I was going to say, there's a website called Education Week, right? Education Week. Please check that website. We'll give you latest statistics on school shootings. School shootings. And if you visit that site, you will realize that there are more shootings taking place in high schools than even colleges now, than universities. How many times have you heard of high school shooting? Kids taking their parents' gun, bringing gun to school, bringing weapon. And by the way, if you care to know, this year alone, this 2022 that we're in, there have been 40 school shootings with injuries and or death. 40. 40. There's been 40 high school shootings. Not high school, schools in general. 40 school shootings that resulted in injury or death. Majority of those shootings took place in high schools. 40. Can you imagine that? The year hasn't even ended yet. Of course, I get it. We got 2 more months to go, right? We still got November, December. But from January to today, October 30th today, there's been 40 school shootings in this country. Out of those shootings, 122 people killed or injured in these shootings. 34 people killed for sure. Have you ever thought about that? Do you think about that when you send your child off to school? When your child leave in the morning, say, Dad, here's the school bus, I'm going to school. Do you think that your child may not come back home? Do you ever think about that? Or it's a harsh reality, right? It's a possibility that does exist. That the kids that are getting killed in these various high school shootings, there are other people's kids. Other people's kids who went to school didn't come back. There are other people's kids. It could be yours. That also, my friends, present another challenge. And just for that alone, I would think, again, I would say when your child graduates from high school, you ought to give them the world if you can. Commend them, acknowledge them, let them know they've taken the most difficult part out of their life journey. That's how much I've frowned on high school education in this country now. I've come to regard it as perhaps one of the most challenging parts of their life journey, just getting high school out of the way. They may not go to college. They may choose to learn trade and go do trade. They may choose to do business. They may choose to do other things. They may choose to go to college much, much later. You don't get old to go to college. Every time I go to school, I see 50 years old men, 60 years old men, 40, 30 years old men going to college. It's not like high school where if you miss the basic foundation, then you're in trouble. So we force them to go to school at a young age, so by the time they graduate, they are out of high school, so they can go to college anytime they want if they're not ready to go right away. That's why the challenges cannot be compared. They're not the same. Very different, I would argue. So my friends, I think what needs to happen, I need to take time off to discuss this high school thing one day in detail, and then I'll keep making it this housekeeping introductory part of my daily topic, which I have made it to be of late. But these issues are seriously concerning to me, and it should be concerning to you too, because if you don't have, let's say if you don't have kids in high school now, if you don't have high schoolers now, you will have them. If you don't have it now, what chances are you had them? You can relate to what I'm saying. You had them, you have them, or you will have them. It's either in the past, present, or future. You had them. At some point in time, you can relate. You have them now. I'm probably talking, you're nodding your head, you're acknowledging. Or you will have them, my friends, when your children grow up, when you start to have children. The sad thing is, even private schools, private high schools in this country, not that much different. Even private high schools, they're not that much different when they're not immune from all these different things. How the hell did drugs end up in high school among high school kids? Or maybe a better way of putting that question would be, where does drugs not go? Because as a former correctional officer, I told you doing one of my shows, a few of my shows, that I was amazed as to how many drugs we recover in prison, daily, weekly. How the hell does a drug make it to prison? A super secure facility. The prison facilities, I work at level 4 facility, very secure. Level 4, level 5, very secure. Stillwater prison, many of you know. We still recover drugs there almost on the daily basis. On a weekly basis, we recover drugs in good quantity. How did drugs end up in prison? I thought the people serving prison time are there because of those similar offenses, drug-related offenses, burglary, murder, theft, and all of that. Drugs certainly a huge factor. If we incarcerated them because they committed drug offenses on the outside, how did they manage to lay hands on drugs on the inside, in the prison? Like, who brings drugs to them? But it's there. The same drugs. So if prisons are secure as they are, if drugs can make it there, I guess there's not much surprise as to how drugs makes it to our high school campuses. You don't hear many colleges or universities named when it comes to drugs dealing, drugs usage. It's oftentimes high schools in this country, because drug dealers have come to understand that the kids are not in their full mind. Their minds are not fully developed. They don't know any better. They can use them to experiment, to both use drugs, steal money from their parents, or commit crimes to find money and combat drugs after they shall become addicted, or worst case scenario, become dealers for them, sell their drugs, because the kids are kids. There will always be kids. Did I mention the other thing that's not even on here? So apart from the opportunity of trying sport, drugs, using or selling sex, then there's also possibility of gang. Do you know if your son or daughter is a gang member? They don't tell you. You don't know. They won't tell you. Of course, those are things they don't speak to. Oftentimes, just like praising, high schoolers have been forced to join gangs at their high schools too. They've been forced to join gang. Why do I say forced? Well, trust me, they don't. Most of them don't do it because they want to. They do it because they are forced to. Here, this is how they are forced. You go to high school, you don't belong to any particular. You don't have any group of friends, and oftentimes, if you know group of friends, depending on group of friends, we protect each other, right? And oftentimes that's what kind of turn into their gang-related activities. So a group of friends, and if you don't belong to any group of friends, then you become not only a laughing stock, but you become almost a prey, almost a loner that anybody can pick on. In prison, it used to be that if an inmate who didn't belong to any gang group, all the other inmates would go rape them. Oftentimes they would beat them to take their personal belonging. They will beat them, get their food from them. They will beat them they will use them, as whatever way they feel like, because they don't have other friends who will come in their defense. They don't belong to any group that would defend them. It's like, so all the treaties you see here, you see all the Western power aligning behind Ukraine. It's almost similar, right? Interestingly, it's almost similar. So we are friends. We agree verbally, no written agreement, but we agree that we belong to this group. So if you attack me, then my friend gonna come. My friends will come for you. You attack my friend, we're gonna come for you. That is as prevalent in prison as it is in our high schools in America. All of our children belongs to gang. Now, don't get me wrong. Not every group they belong to is a gang. It's a gang. Because let me tell you, the definition of gang is pretty simple, pretty straightforward. There's nothing wrong with people getting together as friends. Look at us. We belong to MAI, right? Madingo Association of Minnesota, FEMUSA, we belong together. We're a group. We belong together as a community, Madingo community of Minnesota. So group does not necessarily mean a gang. But when that group start to commit crimes together, then it becomes gang. That's the simplest definition I can give you, right? A group of people coming together for the purposes of committing crimes. That's the elementary definition of a gang group. Otherwise, there's nothing wrong with group. Your friends can belong together. We were at Solo House last night. We're very happy. I mentioned it earlier. We belong together. We have common ideas, common sense, common values we share. We come together. We merry-make. We have fun. We lecture. We go. That is a group. But by the time we decide to coordinate, to communicate, to say, let's commit crime. Let's go burglarize this store. Let's go do this. Then we are there. It has become a gang group now. And that's why oftentimes our kids end up finding themselves. Some of them, not all of them. So you have the potential, you have the probability of any of these things when you see them off to school. They can become gang member. They could become gang member. They'll have chances that they'll try their first sex somewhere in between before they graduate. They'll have their first girlfriend or first boyfriend. They'll try, and oftentimes that girlfriend or boyfriend may not be at your approval. You will not even know. They may try drugs, either to use it or to sell it. They may or may not. If they don't, alhamdulillah. And they will try sports, which you want them to do. Anyway, I just want to say these issues again, I've become near and dear and near to my heart. And so this is not, I mean, I just like to highlight this as a housekeeping matter before I get into my meat topic for the day. But trust me, our kids are very seriously challenged in this country, and it's up to us to give them as much support as we can, try to allocate time to be involved in their daily studies. Visit their campuses as often as you can. Let their friends know you. Let the teachers know you. Not that that will prevent them, but sometimes it helps. Try to attend their teacher-parent conferences as often as possible. Try to be their best friends. None of these are solutions, but out of not knowing what to do. If they got math classes after school, try to be involved in that. Now, I know it's easier said than done. A lot of us have to run from job to job anyway. We have multiple jobs to go to. We run from one job to another job. So how much time have we really got, to be on school, on our children's school campuses? Mind you, I don't know if you know, when your child goes to school in this country, it's almost like you are in school too. They bring homework, assignments to you almost every time that requires you, to be a part and parcel. And please don't brush those things off. If you don't know it, try to find help. So you took, all of you can do it together. Be a part of the process. And best of all, let's continue to pray to the Almighty God so that He may continue to help. Look, I before I close on this subject, now I went to school in Africa. Many of you on here at least went to school in Africa. When the last time you ever heard of gang in any school in Africa, our part of Africa, let me be specific, West Africa, Liberia, Guinea, Sierra Leone, Ivory Coast, gang in school? Of course not. We never had that. Drugs in school? Drugs? We couldn't even afford it. Those concerns. So when I talk about high schools and high schoolers in America, in the West in general, America specifically, please don't take offense to it if you are in Africa and you watch this video. I'm not highlighting high schools in Africa because thankfully we don't have the same problems in high schools in Africa as we have here. And like I said from the beginning, part of what's happening here, I think, has to do with the size of high school. Too many kids going to go to Champlain High School, for instance, right? Go see the number of kids. Our high schools in Liberia, Africa, I don't know. They're not terribly large. Classrooms, maybe a little bigger than some classrooms here. Look, it's just a different environment, right? So by and large, our kids are challenged. That's it. If you didn't take anything out of this high school lecture, the only thing I want you to take out of it from me tonight is that our kids are seriously challenged. And when they go to high school for however long and graduate and come back to us as graduates in full and tight, in sound minds, we ought to celebrate that. We ought to be grateful. We ought to be thankful to Allah who saw them through. That's what I'm saying. And we'll keep talking about these issues, inshallah. With that said, I'm going to permit me now to get into my main discussion for the day, which is about Liberia. Liberia. Elections are coming again. So I want to talk about Liberia, and I want to talk about specifically elections are coming. Time really does flies, that saying, it's an old saying, but not just, there's a lot of truth to it. Just the other day was 2021. As we sit here, we are all bracing for 2023 because 2022 is almost out of the window. 2022 that began just the other day, just yesterday. So we have just 2 months left to go, and it'll be 2023. So if you think that Liberia's general and presidential election that's slated for October of next year, 2023, If you think that is so far out that we ought not to talk about it, then you are wrong, my friend. You are wrong. Before you know it, October will be here. 2023 October will be here, and elections will take place. And as I said before, one of three things will happen after the elections in Liberia. One of three things will happen. The first thing could be other President Weah will retain power and continue on for another 6 years term, or our man Omar Joseph Boakai will be elected, or Alexander Cummings will be elected. Those are the three persons, that the whole presidential election centers around comes 2023 October of next year. Whether, you may not like it, but that's the truth. It's either President Weah, Omar Joseph Boakai, or Alexander Cummings. One of those three will emerge as Liberia's leader post me past 2023 elections, right? So the question that I have asked, therefore, is, well, what kind of Liberia do you actually envision? Do you imagine? For to put it simply, what kind of Liberia do you pray to God for after the elections? Now we know that we know the Liberia we have now. If you are as old as I am, then you know the Liberia you had before. Whether it's the normal time Liberia, the child stealer time Liberia, the Fireman Council Liberia. You know the Liberia of the past. We know the present. The one we do not know is the future. Liberia of the future. Liberia of the future. So, and that means Liberia post or Liberia after the election. What kind of Liberia do you want to see? What kind of Liberia do you want to have? What kind of Liberia do you pray to God for? What kind of Liberia are you secretly asking God for in your daily prayer? A Liberia of corruption free? A Liberia of unity? A Liberia of oneness? A Liberia of development? A Liberia of progress? A Liberia of the same? Who knows? Because I think all of those things I've mentioned, believe me, there are people who want, there's somebody somewhere who each desire each one of those things. There are people who don't find anything wrong with Liberia as present, as it is. There are people who think that Liberia, this is the best, that these are the best days Liberia has ever seen. There are those people. You know some of them, I won't name them. And so for them, let the status quo continue. Let Liberia continue to be what it is, because after all, these are the best days Liberia has ever known. There are others, and I have to admit that I also belong to those others who don't think that Liberia is on the right trajectory. We do not believe that Liberia is on the right path. So we think changes are needed, and needed urgently. Whether those changes will be in personality or in the way of how people do business, that remains to be debated. There are others who envision Liberia to be, the life they live here. They want to see a different kind of Liberia. Something that's not even doable overnight. But they are there. And the beauty about this question of what kind of Liberia do you envision, the beauty lies in the fact that unless we understand this question, the fundamentals of this question of what kind of Liberia do we envision, unless we understand that, our decision as to who to vote into office will not be, will be in serious problem. Because only if you know the kind of Liberia you want, and you can associate that idea or ideas to a particular individual, and thus decide to vote for that person or influence would-be voters to vote for that person, unless you know that you're not likely to vote right. That's why it is important for us to highlight this issue. It is important for us to ask ourselves, if you are a Muslim or a Madingo, ask yourself, are you better off in today's Liberia than you were 6 years ago in Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, Liberia? Are you better off? Are you better off? Are you better off in this government that you think you will be in a Liberia governed by Joseph Boakai, let's say, or governed by Alexander Cummings? Are you better off? Are you better off with the Muslim participation, the Madingo participation? Are you better off with your representation in this government? Are you better off? That is the key question, I guess. If I may begin, I have said time and again that this can be the Liberia for all, because certainly all do not fit, in this particular Liberia. All of us do not. But we have to be honest. We have to be. I talked about integrity on this show a couple of weeks ago, right? So if you have integrity, you'll be honest to say the truth, even if the truth does not favor you. Now, I personally acknowledge the fact that this is a government of some people, and those people are quite happy about that. And you're damn right, they should be. On all account, they should be. Why shouldn't they be? They should be happy because, as the saying goes, as they themselves have told us, that this is our time, quote unquote, this is their time. So they ought to be happy. But I'm not happy. For me, though, I think we deserve and I desire a Liberia that will be for all of us. All of that, the Liberia that will assure all of us time, and not just a particular group of people, handful of people, a particular political party or political ideology. I believe and desire, pray, my secret prayers are that after 2023 election, let God give us a Liberia that will be accommodating of all of us as a people, as Liberians, as Africans. A Liberia that will thrive not only in corruption, but a Liberia that will do well in terms of development. A Liberia that will do well, especially in terms of justice, the rule of law. The rule of law and justice, a Liberia that will highlight those issues. Because at the end of the day, the whole issue of corruption can be tied into a lot of things. Lack of opportunities. Crime, I meant to say, can be tied into a lot of things. Lack of opportunities, lack of employment, lack of jobs. Lack of jobs clearly due to lack of investment. Lack of investment is due to lack of investors. Lack of investors is due to lack of several things. All right? The terrain is not developed enough for some investors to bring their huge investment. Somebody told me, I'm not sure how true is it, but somebody told me when I was in Liberia that Walmart has sent representatives to visit, to assess the Liberian market. I don't know I'm not sure if it is true. Don't quote me on this. But at least I heard it twice when I was in Liberia. And every time I heard it, I wonder, you got to be kidding me. Why wouldn't Walmart send somebody to go assess the Ghanaian market, for instance? Ghana is doing very well. The Nigerian market, for instance. The Ivorian market, for instance. And on and on. Liberia, I tell you, well, I hope so. I hope it's true. That's what I said. But what I heard weeks later was that they said the country wasn't ready. The country is not connected for them to even move goods and services around. Where is the bar road medicine they used to call? Where are the bar road medicines they used to call them? Country is not linked up. Country is not connected. No electricity. There are some companies that operate 24/7. Their operation, their businesses depends on electricity. Constant supply of electricity. Consistent, continuous, uninterrupted supply of electricity. Their operation depends on that. So if you don't have constant electricity supply, how can you possibly attract those kind of investors? They wouldn't come. But folks, let's be clear. Let's be honest to ourselves. One of the biggest problems with the issue of lack of jobs, lack of investment, and investors in Liberia, in my mind, I said, has to do with the lack of justice, the rule of law. Our Franklin disregard for the rule of law and lack of justice for all. That's what I think. I mean, let's fix it. Who will want to invest in a country where the justice system is so twisted? Who will want to take their hard-earned money to go invest it in a country where justice can be bought, can be sold to the highest bidder? Who would want to do that? So the issues as far as the rule of law, justice, corruption, crimes again, because the crime rate in Liberia is off the roof. And all of that, let's just say, the hardship, everything will be on the ballot comes October 2023. Those are the things on the ballot, right? Those are the things on the ballot. So before you decide to re-elect President Weah, ask yourself, how well has he managed corruption in Liberia? How well? How well has he managed corruption in Liberia? How well has he managed justice for all in Liberia, the rule of law? How well are they doing with that? How well do you sleep at night? Crime. How well do you sleep at night? Here, I want to get this. Let me see. Is it this one? How well do you think? Here, this is one.
If you want to, in a sense, eliminate corruption in a society, and we all want to eliminate corruption in a society, the most effective way to do it is to make sure you don't punish people at the bottom, you punish people at the top. I'll tell you one story. In the 1960s, when Singapore was a very poor country then, our per capita income was 500. A government minister was invited by a businessman to go on holiday. Just on holiday. No bride. He and his family went on holiday with a businessman. He came back. He was arrested, charged, went to jail. After that, no more corruption. Because it's a very powerful signal that is sent when you go after someone at the top. So Singapore's experience, and it's actually quite remarkable how you have almost zero corruption in Singapore, is because we decided that the example must come from the top.
Did you hear that? Even if you are stealing the money and give it to Liberian for that good thing he's doing. Now, Singapore experience, like the first video said, setting an example at the top. Where was Magay? Was he at the top? At the very top, right? At the very top. But there's the man bragging about even if you're stealing the money. Did President Weah have the will, the willingness to call him up on it, even on that video, even after he made that video? No, of course he did not. It wasn't until the U.S. Treasury Department flagged these men as being corrupt that President Weah suspended, not dismissed, suspended, and subsequently accepted his resignation. Now, if that's the kind of mayor you want to elect again, then kudos to you. Then that means you want business as usual. You want continuation of what's there. That means you like what you have. That means you envision the kind of Liberia that you envision, you dream about, that you want to have is the kind you have now. So you don't have problem. And I'm not mad at you. That's your right to do. But let's just be clear that that's what you want. All right? So, but anyway, I've been notified that I got some unannounced visitors who just show up at my door. They are upstairs right now within my living room. So I'm gonna make the show brief so I can go upstairs and attend to them. This is the beauty of Mandingo culture. People can come unannounced. They can show up once they know where you live. They can come and they are welcome. I'm happy. I'm excited about that. So yeah, I'm gonna go upstairs in a little bit here and attend to my visitors. I hope they brought me some good thing, So, but anyway, before I give my final thoughts, I want you to know that the phone lines are open. If you want to jump in to participate, please feel free to call to call 612-481-5130. Let me repeat those numbers. Feel free to call 612-481-5130. Feel free to call if you have any question, comment, clarity. You care to comment on any of the things I've talked about so far, I'll be more than happy to take your calls. All right. So, but so the election in Liberia, and why it's important for us to keep lifting and highlighting this Liberia of our dream, Liberia of tomorrow. Why is it important? Because my friends, even those of us who live in America here, Europe, America, Asia, Australia, anywhere else, we may not be in Liberia. We may not be living in Liberia today, but trust me, our hearts are there. We are not there physically, but our hearts are there. Not to mention our people are also there. Our people are there, and until our people can do well, most of them will continue to be burdens on us here in the diaspora. Isn't that the truth? Who is not bothered? I'm sorry for the terminology. Maybe someone now want to call it burden, but at the end of the day, that's what it is, right? I know friends who come from some good African countries. When they see us shipping money back home at the rates that we do, they wonder how we do that and still make it here, because they too are from African countries, but they are not shipping money quite the same way as we are, because at least their people are working, they are doing well, they are getting paid decent. I know at least two friends here whose families send them money from Kenya every 2 weeks. They are on paycheck every 2 weeks from Kenya. Their brothers and sisters, parents send them money here in America. Are you from Liberia, Guinea, Ivory Coast, Sierra Leone? Are they sending you money? Does that idea even exist? Can you blame them for that? Well, of course you can't blame them. Our governments have now created the conducive atmosphere for our countries to thrive, for businesses to work, for our people to work. How many college graduates do we have as relatives and friends roaming the street in Liberia, Guinea, Ivory Coast, and Sierra Leone, but cannot find work to do? How many? How many nurses, accountants, and other? How many do we have? Numerous. There are lots and lots of young people who are not only competent, qualified, but they are eager to work. But where is the work to have? And there are a few of them who have the work, they are not getting the salary. And there are those who are getting the salary, their salary can barely sustain them. They can't even live on it. Thanks to the so-called paycheck harmonization, right? Salary harmonization, they call it. You ever wonder what happened to the money that they even cut from those people paycheck, poor struggling people? Have you ever wondered? But anyway, I just told you we have some guests upstairs. So again, I want to remind you, there's something I'm investigating here. Hopefully by next week, I hope I can find some information, reliable information on the subject. It's good enough for me to talk about. The thing has to do with the dual citizenship bill in Liberia, right? You know that there was a dual citizenship bill that was worked on. I think it was initiated in the lower house at the Capitol building. The representatives work on it and the Senate concur. So it's my understanding that both houses have signed off, on the bill, and the bill is on President Weah's desk for him to affix his signature, thereby passing it into law, so that dual citizenship can be a law in Liberia, so that you, the Liberians abroad, in the diaspora, anywhere for that matter, that are of second nationalities now, you, the Liberians who now carry passports from other countries, will once again be welcome back home as Liberians. Let's be clear though, the bill in question, the current bill on President Weah's desk for him to sign, is a watered down version of the bill. A watered down version. Watered down version meaning it's a restrictive bill. It's a bill that has some restriction as to, you being a citizen of the United States, England, Canada, anywhere for that matter, and while still retaining your Liberia citizenship. The restriction, the limitations are there. The few that comes to mind right off the bike include the fact that as a dual citizen, you will not be allowed to become president. You will not run for presidency. No, you will not. They will not let you. The law will not allow you to do that, right? As a dual citizen, if the bill is passed into law, there are certain key government positions that you will not be allowed to occupy. Finance minister is one of them, so you don't take the people money and run back to your second country, I think, and a few other key government positions. So when I heard about this, when I talked to people like, I forgot this guy's name, this guy interviewed many times on LDF who are in the forefront of it, when I talked to this guy about the bill, why did they allow this bill to be watered down to this extent with all these caveats, all these restrictions? I think the short and simple answer to me was satisfying to me. The gentleman's question was, it's a good step, good fresh step in the right direction. Good fresh step in the right directions, right? Meaning that once we accept this and this becomes law, over time we can find ways, we can petition, we can rally, maybe we can lobby, maybe we can bribe. Yeah, that brabbing country, right? You got to bribe for everything. Bribe for everything, to the extent that we have a friend here whose son got selected by Lone Star Junior thing the other day. The coaches asked that the ball must first pay money in order to be put on the team. Only in Liberia. The kid has enormous talent. I'm told by all accounts he was the best player on the practice ground. But no, they would not recruit him on the team until he pays bribe. He had to contact his parents over here in the States to generate money and send to him for him to bribe the coaches so they can draft him and put him on the national team. Only in Liberia. So, Governor, not to digress too far from the topic, so maybe, like the guy told me, that once this current version of the so-called dual citizenship bill is enacted into laws, then over time, maybe us, it will be us, or maybe our children, if we are not alive, who intend to retain their Liberian citizenship in full stream, would then have to lobby, the government, whatever they have to do, to alleviate, to remove those conditions, those conditionalities, conditions of our citizenship to Liberia. So I agree. It's a good step, good first step in the right direction. My only concern, though, the one I'm investigating, I told you about the bill, is that why is it taking so long on President Weah's decks? I thought the lawmakers were the problem. I thought the issue was that the lawmakers could not come to terms. They could not agree. I thought the legislature, as divided as they are, as corrupt as they can be, I thought they were the holdup. They were the obstacle. But now we know both houses, lower and upper houses, have signed off on the bill. They've agreed and signed it. And the bill has been on President Weah's decks for several months now. Why is he afraid of? Why is he holding on to it? Why hasn't he signed off onto that bill for it to be acted into law? Why was the delay? Not to mention, he himself probably has a second passport anyway. Does he not have a second passport? Who doesn't believe that Weah has a second passport? I don't have any hard evidence for it, but I'm inclined to believe so. Do you? Do you? Anyway, I hope I didn't miss your calls. I wasn't looking at the phone. If I did, well, feel free to call again. Otherwise, I'm getting ready to call it at night, so I can go attend to my uninvited visitors who have shown up at my residence, and they are upstairs awaiting me. I've been notified via text, so I can go and see them. Next week, I'm sure I'll be here with Musa Keita and few other panelists, and we haven't decided on the topic yet. And as I said, if you missed it from the beginning, it will be under a brand new program we'll be starting called The Way Forward. The Way Forward seeks to bring together a group of panelists to come and discuss various issues in our community, various issues in our countries, and various issues in our religion, maybe, to talk about. So we'll try to find the appropriate people for almost every area that we intend to look at, so that they can come and enlighten us as to, what's happening in those areas. Apart from that, I had congratulated our friend and brother, Abu Fofana, Milwaukee, aka Milwaukee Pape, for returning his show, something that has benefited our community a lot, because he says the truth a lot of time, and something that we can't stomach. I want to acknowledge him and thank him for all of his support to our show. And always want to acknowledge my uncle and friend, brother, my very good uncle Leo Sese, who is the man who loves the talk show more than anybody I know, making half show in his bed. He's a veteran, right? You gotta give it out to him. And apart from those, I also thank President Solomoni Jabate, for giving us something to look forward to every weekend at his residence. This country is stressful. I mean, whether you like it or not, all we do here, most of us, is to work, sleep, eat. Eat, work, sleep, eat, work, sleep. So, President Solomoni of Mandingo Association of Minnesota has no idea how much of a therapy his weekly barbecue Thai base has become. A lot of us go there now to go relieve some stress out. We go and talk and laugh and have fun. And the base is becoming increasingly interesting to the extent that it's beginning to attract politicians and many others who are not necessarily members of mine, but they come to the base and we welcome them. Feel free to come. Hopefully one day, after coming to the base several times and see that the majority members of the base at President Soleimani House, have a different idea. Maybe, just maybe, your own ideas, you could see reason to make adjustments to your own ideas and thereby aligning with us. So those are the issues I highlighted. If you're not here, and those are the issues I'm concluding with. So, and with those said, I'm sorry. I have to call it at night so I can go and attend to my guests. I have no idea who the guests are, so it could even be so they're not people that I'm not supposed to keep waiting, have them keep waiting for a long time. So, all right, I am signing off, and let's all have a wonderful night. Thank you for being here, and thank you always. Good night.
dia bela, adia di jamake la America konorie. America